Good morning, Young Kings. Time for your morning motivation this morning. Back out at the track again. Just ran 4 miles, so increasing the distance a little. Didn't mean to run 4 miles this morning. I was purposing to run 3, but as I got out here and started running, my calf started hurting right around 1.5 miles, and my body was telling me, hey, are you sure you want to do 3 miles today? You know, why don't you do 2.5 and build your way up? So continue to press through it. Got to 2 miles, decided to go ahead and do what I purposed to do, which was run the 3 miles. Calf still hurting, adjusting from running on the treadmill to running outside, and just continue to push through it. Got to 2.5 miles, the calf was really hurting. I was like, man, I could just stop here and walk the other 1/2 mile and then call it 3 and it'd be good. But something in me to no push through it. So I pushed through it and got to the 3 miles. When I got to the 3 miles, I was tempted to say, hey, I accomplished my goal. Why don't I just stop now? So I said, nah, the body's not going to win today. For my body trying to deceive me, I decided to go on and punish it with another mile. So it was going to be hurting. It was going to be hurt because we went the extra mile, not because we stopped short. So, and I realized as I was running and pushing through the pain wasn't an injury type pain. It was more of a discomfort. Hey, I don't feel like doing this type pain. It was more of, hey, let's take a break. Let's slow down. So the pain wasn't like, hey, I'm going to hurt myself. The pain was like trying to put me back into a comfort zone, into where I was feeling comfortable, nice, warm, and cozy, and wasn't accomplishing my dream. Then I realized, you know, that's the difference between the adaptive self and authentic self. The adaptive self wants you in comfort. It wants you in a cozy environment, one that's, you know, feels good, that's accepted, that's free of pain, that's easy. And your authentic version is going to be challenging because it's going to take you through your comfort zone. You're going to feel the pain. You're going to feel some losses. But what I was realizing in this whole process, like, this is not an automatic thing. There's an invitation to be authentic. It's an invitation that you have to accept. Because if you don't accept the invitation, you can go back to life as it's been. You can go back to the comfort zone. You can go back to the easy road. You can go back to the land of just enough. But in order for you to get to the land of abundance, it's going to cause you to go through something to be authentic. So when I got to that 3rd mile, I wanted to punish my body because I was like, my body's not in control of this process. I had to tell my body to shut up and run. Like, my mind and my spirit had to tell my body, you ain't subjective to me. Like, shut up and run. Just continue. Don't be talking to me. Just do what I told you to do. Now, if it was an injury pain, then obviously I was going to have to listen and then come back and get to the healing process. But this wasn't that pain. This was just that comfort pain, that different pain, that isolation pain, just to get you to do something that you to oppose what you said you was going to do. So, as I mentioned, like, when you go through this authentic version of yourself, life in this world is about to come at you and test you and see how authentic you want to be, because it's challenging. And if you ain't up for the challenge, you can go back to your default setting. Your default setting is what you're accustomed to. The people you used to being around, their approval. That's your default setting of how you came up and people conditioned you to be who they thought you should be. That's your default setting. Your authentic self, you gotta push past. You gotta hit that reset and start all over again. And you don't start off running. You start off in the infancy stage, just crawling, then you're gonna walk, and then you're gonna run. And when you run, it may not be a sprint. This is for the long haul. This is why we call this the rebirth. We got to reintroduce everybody to the new version of ourselves. So this is not a life of easy. This is not a life of comfort. This is a life of progress. And in that life of progress, there's going to be some pain. Excuse me. As I mentioned, I think it was about a month or two ago. I said there's two types of pain, and you got to realize, like, there's the pain of progress and there's the pain of regret. Excuse me. Y'all have to get used to that. Whatever. The pain of progress and the pain of regret. The pain of progress, it hurts temporarily. While you're going through it, it doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable. But then you look back on it and you can celebrate that you made it in spite of what was hurting you or what was opposing you. The pain of regret, it feels good during the temporary side because it feels easy. But then you reflect back on it and you realize how much you lost by not following through. And that pain of regret is enduring. It continues. It continues to burden you. Years down the line, you'll be wondering, why didn't I start this project 5 years ago? I could have been this further ahead. Why didn't I start classes, 2 years ago? I could have been almost done by now. Why didn't I start changing my diet? Man, I could have been halfway to my goal by now. So that pain of regret is enduring. So you can't listen to that pain or that comfort zone, because that comfort is going to turn into regret. That temporary pain is going to turn into progress. So just when you pray to God, don't pray and ask God that He removes all your problems and that you have an easy life. Pray to God for strength that you may endure a hard one. Because the easy one, if God removes all your problems, He makes your life easy, then you remain weak. But if you pray for strength and you become stronger, that's enduring strength. Now you're ready to tackle the next obstacle that comes your way. And that's part of being authentic. The authentic version of you is an enduring one. It doesn't need the crowd. It can get started on its own. This is not an operation of perfection, but we will get better. And that's why I had to symbolize and run 4 miles today, because my body was trying to tell me to stop short of what I wanted to do. There's a lot of people around your circle that are going to question this change in your life. And like I said, don't get confused. Like, this change is not a destructive change, a license for you to go out and do whatever you want to do under the umbrella of being authentic. No, that's not it. This is an opportunity for growth. This is an opportunity for realness. This is an opportunity for you to be authentic in nature and be universally you, not compartmentalize your life where you like this in one situation and then you like this in another situation and then you respond to this way and another way. No, this is about a universal application of your authentic version, being yourself. And you're gonna have to realize, like, during this process, you're gonna have to question some things that you believe or that you thought you believed or that you thought were true, and see, are they universally true? This is not a license just to go and reinforce or regurgitate what you think you know. You're going to have to do some research. You're going to have to start studying yourself. You're going to have to start studying your environment. You're going to have to even start researching the researchers, the people who's writing the stuff you're reading. You're like, what is their motive behind writing that? Do they have a hidden agenda behind publishing something? So just because you heard it on Facebook or Instagram or you see in a video meme, that doesn't mean that it's true. You got to research your researcher, because there's a lot of clandestine activities that's going on that's against your authentic version of yourself. They're designing everybody to try to fit in and try to be accepted. But like I said, I'm a misfit. I don't stand in. I don't fit in. I stand out. And that's what you ought to be. You ought to be able to stand out. So this morning, as I was going through my morning reading, I got to Nehemiah 6. And if you know about the book of Nehemiah, he's going through, he get a vision to rebuild the wall. The wall from his home city in Jerusalem was torn down. And he got this vision from the Most High to go start the rebuilding efforts. And he could have stayed in comfort, because Nehemiah was a cupbearer. He was in the lap of luxury, eating steak and shrimp, tasting whatever the king wanted, drinking the finest wine. So when it came for his own personal comfort, he was in it. But in order for him to accomplish his mission, he had to go rebuild the wall from his hometown. And that's the rebirth. In order for something to be rebuilt, that means it had to be built the first time. And it had to be a lot of destruction. So the version of you right now, the walls are torn down, your defenses are torn down. And you got to go back and rebuild those walls and fortify your city to make sure that you can protect the authentic version of yourself. Because when your walls are not up, then the people outside of you can influence you. But when your barriers are high and they're fortified, man, it's going to take a lot of their attention to divert you from what you're supposed to be doing. So in chapter 6 of Nehemiah, as he was rebuilding the wall, his enemies started to plot against him. Yeah, you got to have enemies. When you start getting on task and purpose, people are going to oppose you. So his enemies start coming out of him, and they started giving him an invitation to come down and meet with them. And they said, Nehemiah, come on down, meet with us. We want to discuss some things with you. And Nehemiah responded so wisely. He said, why should I stop my work to come down and have a conversation with you? I'm on purpose. And I'm paraphrasing. You can go back and read the chapter. But he was like, I'm working. And they approached him like 4 different times for him to come down to stop his project. But he knew, because he's connected with the Most High, that when he came down, if he had came down from where he was working at, that they had a plot to kill him. They wanted to assassinate his dream. They wanted to assassinate his authentic vision of what he was intended to do. They were plotting against him, so they had to get him off purpose in order to get him to the land of destruction. And Nehemiah resisted. He was like, no, I'm working, I'm building, I'm on purpose. 4 times they sent him. And then after they realized he wasn't coming off task and purpose, they started to plot to send a false prophet to him. Say, hey, Nehemiah, come down. Let's go into the house of the Lord. And you'll be amazed. I realize that how people will manipulate religion to try to control you. And if you're not reading yourself, that's why it talks about in scripture, study to show thyself approved. Right men willing to divide the word, meaning like a lot of people go to church or they go into these religious assemblies and they depended on the pastor to give them the word and to obey that. And they're just accepting everything that pastors say. I'm not against pastors. I think there are men that are called of God and that really can articulate this word. But even if that is true, that doesn't relieve you from the responsibility of doing it yourself. There's something in you that's supposed to be developing your skill set in dissecting the word. So they asked Nehemiah to come down with a false prophet, telling him to go into the temple. And then Nehemiah said he knew that they was not of the Lord, because at this point in time, he wasn't authorized in the temple. It was for the priests, and it was a sacred place. So they knew that if they was inviting him to do something he wasn't inviting them that he wasn't supposed to do, that it wasn't coming from the Most High. So he refused them again. And then they started, if they couldn't get him to destroy himself, then they started to spread rumors about Nehemiah. They started to tell him like, hey, I know why you want to rebuild a wall. You trying to make a kingdom for yourself so you can overthrow the kingdom. And at the time, the Persians were in rule. So he knew, the enemies knew, if they can get him distracted and then they can start lodging allegations at him, that they can get other people to stand up against Nehemiah as well. And Nehemiah responded and said, this thing that you're imagining is just in your head. You know, my purpose is clear. What I am doing is not in opposition of the kingdom here. So I started thinking about how that is so true from the adapt yourself to your authentic version of yourself. Meaning like, people are going to come against you. And everybody you call your friend are not your friend. And, you know, I got a lot of people on my Facebook friends and stuff like that, and a lot of associates. But I have very few friends. And if you're real with yourself, you'll realize that the people you call your friend, you're telling yourself real lies. They're not your friends. They're associates. They're watching you from a distance. Some of them are watching you. They get close enough to you to see how they can distract you. They're not in tune with your purpose on what you're supposed to be doing. They're distractions. You know, a true friend helps you build. It helps you to go to that next level. They're encouraging you. They're motivating you. A fake friend or a frenemy, a friend that's posing, an enemy that's posing as a friend, they're consumers of you. They're taken from you. Once they come around you, you feel like you're burdened, like you're drained from interacting with them. They can't celebrate you making moves or being happy or growing, they start hating on you. You notice, like, when you're struggling, people can talk about you. You're like, even in these videos, my videos that were painful in nature, get the most views. The ones where it shows me that I was vulnerable and showing some down spots of my life, whether it hurt me or whatnot, those are the ones that get the most views. Then I get on and I tell people, hey, I'm rebounding, I'm doing this and that. That gets the most accusation. Oh, who you think you are and this and that. And you lose the most people once they think you are moving in a new direction. The likes on your videos will start to decrease. Y'all selfish with likes. Y'all some selfish ass people, man. Stop being selfish with that like. It don't cost you nothing to push the like button. You ain't gotta hate that much. Let somebody know you're watching it. But anyways, you realize, like, this authentic version of yourself, this is not for the masses. This is an individual effort. Like, you got to stay on task and on purpose, where people will try to bring you down and take you to a place that you're not supposed to go. And you got to fight against that, because everything in you is used to that. You're used to being popular. You're used to being accepted. But sometimes on this road, you might have to walk alone. It's a lonely road ahead. So be careful and not to discredit that pain and that loneliness. That's part of the process. When you feel that, that's not to show you that you're off track. That ought to be reinforcing to you that you move in the right direction. So this week's assignment, is to really have a conversation with yourself. As I mentioned, as I was running, I had to talk to my body and tell my body to shut up and run. Sometimes you have to talk to yourself and realize what's going on. So your adaptive self and your authentic self are operating in the same space. I'll say that again. Your adaptive self and your authentic self are operating in the same space. And one of them got to go. Like, it's not big enough. The space is not big enough for the two of them. So they're in competition to see. Excuse me, I'm trying to get in the car. It's cold out there. It's in competition to see who's going to win. See, your adaptive self has a stronghold on you. And it's got a foothold, got a foot in the door, and it won't let you close it, because everything around you is being conditioned to fit in with it. Your adaptive self is the one that's fighting for freedom. It's fighting for a chance to be reborn, to be authentic in nature. So there's this fight going on. So what you got to do this week is have a conversation with it too. When you're in situations and your adaptive self respond to something, ask it a question. Like, you're not the sum total of things that's happening inside your head. Like, you got to give birth to it through an action, or you got to introduce it into the atmosphere. That's how things become real. So the thoughts, you can't control the thoughts from coming into your head. Now, your response is what gives life to that thought. And that's why, stinking thinking can have you in a bad situation. Because if you got all these bad stuff that's happening to you, and then you responded and you're giving those things life, then you're going to manifest bad things into your life. Like, it's not hard to find bad news. Bad news is coming. You don't have to search for it. There's somebody that's sick today. There's somebody that's going to die soon. There's somebody that lost a job. There's somebody that got this injury. There's somebody that's getting on your nerve. You don't have to search for those things. And if you start letting those things marinate in your brain, and then you start introducing them through the atmosphere, through your responses, through your speech, through your conduct, then that's how people turn those bad thoughts into bad lives. So your authentic version of yourself is the one that's hunting for something that's beyond the pain, that's beyond the burden of what your current reality is. Because you can create your own reality if you're patient enough. You know, if you're willing to go through the motions and do the stuff and do the hard work it takes to become better, you can really become better. But you can't become better and be comfortable at the same time. So you got to have a talk. So when that thought comes to your head and it's your adaptive self suggesting something, have your authentic version asking, why are you saying that? What makes you feel this way? You know, have that conversation inside your head. You're capable of having this conversation with yourself, because I know I talk to myself a lot. You know, I'll respond to something. It's like, man, why did I do that? You know, that was stupid. Or, you know, why did I say that? Something, I got a smart mouth too. Sometimes it's automatic. I'll have a smart response, and then afterwards I'll reflect on it. But what I'm asking you to do is start having that conversation before the response. Like, really start analyzing, why are you willing to respond to this way? Why are you willing to do it? And is this in line with your adaptive self or your authentic self? And when you have that conversation, this is not a fight between the two. You're trying to gain understanding, and you realize, like, that adaptive self, it's going to camouflage yourself as really loving you. It wants to protect you from any hurt, harm, or danger. It wants to shield you from some things that have hurt you in your past. It wants to make sure that you live a comfortable life. And it's thinking it's protecting you, you know. And that's what the adaptive self, it's not there to destroy you, but it will destroy you if you listen to it. Because in an attempt to save you, it's going to harm you. And your authentic self is the one that has to step out there on faith. You know, it's a lot of uncertainties about life. There's a lot of uncertainties about this world. And the authentic version wants to explore. And it wants to be that explorer. But that version that wants to explore, it intimidates the adaptive self, because it doesn't want to be hurt. It doesn't want to be disappointed. It doesn't want to feel unloved. It wants to feel accepted. And your authentic self can't promise that everything that it does will be accepted by everybody that it encounters, but it's willing to go anyway. So you got to be, in order for you to be your authentic self, you got to be willing to go anyway. And you got to realize, like, look at the people responses around you. Are they like Nehemiah's enemies? Are they trying to get you down and off purpose because they want to destroy you? And I realized Nehemiah's response is like, no one can destroy you without your permission. Like, Nehemiah could have came down and he could have addressed them, and he could have debated with them. He could have tried to convince them. But the reality of it is, no matter what Nehemiah said to them, they weren't going to change their mind to say, oh, now I see what you're doing. I'm for you now. So Nehemiah understood that he wasn't going to take the bait and get all purpose to go address somebody that he couldn't convince that he was going to be doing the right thing, because they were never going to be on his side. So he stayed in his authentic version, and had to fight through it. And that's what you're going to have to realize. Like, can't nobody destroy you without your permission. You're going to have to come off purpose. You're going to have to come off task and then go address some things that's less than what you had intended to do. You're going to have to start defending yourself. You're going to have to start justifying what you're doing. And when you spend time justifying what you're doing and being distracted, you're not spending time on purpose. That message was for me. I'm going to go rewind that so I can listen to that again. So when you spend time away from what you were doing to be your authentic version, and you're trying to get people to accept it, subconsciously you just move back into the adaptive self, because you want people to accept your authentic version, but you're being less than authentic by watering it down so they can accept it. That was deep. Really think about that. Don't sabotage your authentic version of yourself, even if you have to go alone. Be well, young kings.